Hello and welcome to my Dual Knight deck profile for the premium format. So we're just going to go through this sort of pilot list. I haven't actually tested this list, but I do have experience using Dual Knights before the new set came out. So based on that and based on my theories, this is a good starting point for the new Dual Knight deck. And then of course you can adapt it based on your experiences in games, of course. Obviously, I don't have time to do that right now, and of course the timing of the video is very early on. Here's Ambrosius as a starter. Any V starter is fine because anything that draws and gives you quick shield is good. One tech for Ashley Reverse. This is really handy to have as a tech because you've got Dual Knight Christine in the premium format, which can search for a Dual Knight grade 3. You can even reveal grade 3 heals. It doesn't actually have to be a Dual Knight grade 3 that gets revealed to search for the Dual Knight grade 3. So very useful to have, and the reason why I like to tech this is because if your opponent's on grade 2 or less, you're actually able to do something more efficient with this card, whereas Salome requires your opponent being grade 3 to actually do the restand ability. So she's quite nice to have, and you can always do her plus the original Ashley's as well to do more aggression. And then 4 copies of Dual Knight Salome. She's your main ride target, so you want to ride this as much as you can, and that will help you of course do Crystal Luster as well. Then 4 copies of Ashley because she can get you more attacks. She's very good as well if you want to call Miranda, for example, and then if you use another copy of Ashley, you can call over the Miranda, and then you get your counter charge, which works mid battle to try and set up Crystal Luster's return, because Crystal Luster requires one counter blast to use the 10k drive check, but then you need another counter blast to do the restand ability. So that's just something to kind of note. If you have 2 Ashleys, the Miranda combo is quite useful, and you can even tech Miranda because Miranda basically requires just being called from deck, but there are a bunch of cards in this deck that can return things. So if you just call out the Miranda and then you place over her, then you get your counter charge easy. Next we have Sybil. You can't take this card for granted. This is a really good ride target. She can set up your soul charge, she can filter, and she can also +1 when placed over. So as a Vanguard ride, she's the best because she doesn't care if you stride on top, whereas this card cares because you give 10k to your Vanguard when you place over, of course, or rear guard, but if you place on Vanguard and you end up striding, then you lose your 10k power. So this is better off on the rear guard circle in the premium format as opposed to V, where in V it's not that big a deal because you're actually keeping your grade 3. Then we have 2 Sword Me. I might bump this up to 3 though. I cut it down just now just to make room for Miranda, but this card's actually really good for the early game and having advantage and everything, and you could potentially cut Miranda down, potentially, but you can also potentially up her if you don't want to rely on certain plays, such as the Ashley combo. And plus, if you do ride her, you can countercharge if your opponent happens to damage Knight. Obviously, that relies on anticipating your opponent's play, and obviously when your opponent sees this in your Vanguard circle and they happen to be playing around you, then of course the effect can just become useless, because if they play around it, then what's the point? And then you've got 4 copies of Alwine, so she's more of a check top 2 rather than just a hard draw. She can draw into potentially any of your normal unit Dual Knights, so all the normal units are Dual Knights in this deck. You don't get a chance to go into your draw PGs, of course, because it's not got the Dual Knight name. So if you do see 2 triggers, it's going to suck unless one of them is a Dual Knight crit, which we do play like 3 copies of anyway. This is kind of a tricky one, but the reason I decided to go for her over Movidius is because her act skill is a rest cost, which obviously was designed for locking, but the funny thing is because of the Dual Knight mechanic, calling over is obviously incentivized, so the whole resting thing doesn't really feel like a cost if you're just going to plus back off of it anyway. So it's a bit of a joke of a cost, but she's also returning cards to deck with her ability. She's soul charged and she gives the Vanguard 5k, which can be handy, whether it's with Ashley Reverse to give power for the Sentinel Straight, or for Crystal Luster or Salome to give more power for the restand play as well. So it's a very efficient card. But the fact that the soul charge also free is also really nice too. And the reason I'm not playing Movidius is because of the lack of space, of course. It's really tight now, but Movidius is a really good card. Then 4 copies of Eunice. She can basically retire a card in the same column if you place over her, which is handy. Otherwise you end up drawing a card, which is also a good alternative. And she can also bounce the hand, which makes her good as a core target for when you want to use Salome to get the restand ability by meeting the condition of calling off Dual Knights. So that's also good, and she's soul charging while bouncing and returning cards to deck, which is really good. She's a very good engine card. Then 4 copies of Christine, because you can of course reveal grade 3s including the heal triggers to search for any Dual Knight, including your techs, or including Salome if you need to ride Salome, or including Ashley just to get more attacks. So very good grade 1 there. But you need to have 3 more other Dual Knights on rearguard. So the Dual Knight crit is helpful if you play that. And then the over trigger. because it's really good with the rear guards, Age of Superior Calling. 4 draw perfect guards. So the draw perfect guards are also good, but obviously you can't search them with the new grade 1, so that's the downside, whereas Morvidius could blind draw into it. But the thing is, I don't feel comfortable with the idea of playing normal perfect guards for Dual Knight assaults, because obviously the lack of space is a real problem. Like, the normal units are so high quality that it's very hard to justify it. There's a lot of arguments against playing them. So it's not like Eradicators, where Eradicators, they've seen more reason to play Wyve and Gold, the Eradicate version, because of certain things, but or even I think a special counterblast might be another reason I've seen that, but it's kind of weird. Oh no, there's a searcher. You can search top 5 and look for Eradicate at hand. I think that was the main reason. So Dual Knights only has the one that checks top 2, which is obviously a bit more sacky, so I'm not really sure about building a whole deck around the check top 2 as opposed to Eradicators who have a check top 5. Now there's 4 Center Flare Draco Kid, which is the Stride Assist, very handy to have. 3 Dual Knight crits, so I chose this over the Generation Break 1 crit because of the Christine combo. If you don't play Christine, then I think the Generation Break 1 crit might be better to play, but because Christine can whiff, if you see like a lack of triggers in your hand, like you see too many grade 3s and trigger units, then of course you can't use Christine, so you brick even harder on top of already bricking. So that's why this Dual Knight crit is really handy, because at least if you draw this crit, then the bricking doesn't make you brick harder, if that makes sense. Because otherwise you're just using Christine when you're already sort of winning, in a way. Then 4 heal triggers as well as reveal targets, of course, but also gives a bit of defense in the early game. If you're Grace Stalling and your opponent starts to ride up and blast you out, then the heals are good for that. Then going to the G-Zone, we have 2 Crystal Luster Dragons, because Crystal Luster is, well, he can basically clone Salome's skill, which is really good. Gain extra 10k and drive off of Salome as well. It's basically made for Salome. 4 copies of Evangeline. She's free, but she can be flipped via Crystal Luster so that she scales more later game. Don't underestimate this card. This is really good because there's going to be times where your opponent damage denies you or doesn't give you the counter blast, or you've maybe used up too much. And so this helps you in that situation. If you've still got your units on the field, then you can at least give them power for free, and of course it'll be stronger later. And the other units also can flip other units. So we've got another Twin Sword if you want to get more attacks, but you don't have enough counter blast, or you don't have Salome as your ride to justify using this. You've also got this as well as an option. 2 copies of Altmile. So he's a G Persona flip, which is why I played 2. Obviously you can't flip Evangeline with this. He's more there in a very desperate situation. You have no counter blast, you have no field. That's sort of where he comes in, because he doesn't need any of those things to work. Then 1 Cold Burn. So Cold Burn is there just to get big shield, and of course because it's a first G guard, you can use it that way as well. So less conditions, because Raw Paladin is quite riddled with conditions. So this kind of helps for that reason. 1 G guard that can turn with your interceptors into a perfect guard or an extra 10k shield as well. So this is very useful to have. I don't know why people are trashing this card. I mean, the only thing that's bad about it is it's just another Raw Paladin G-Guard that requires you relying on the field, whereas you look at Gold Paladins have G-Guards that don't care about the field anymore. So that kind of helps just to have anyway, regardless, because as long as you've got something, then you're able to do something worthwhile. And besides, you can spread the guarding into, like, guard 1 attack with this, and now you can PG with the next one as well. That's also handy. It's a Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, so you just got to be a bit careful with that cost as well. Generation Break 1 Maskell, so you can only use him as a second G-Guard, which is, or after you Stride even, which is why we have to rely on these other G-Guards more. He's useful for getting loads of extra shield as well. And then we've got Ingrain, which is there if you have like no hand almost, then you can just use Brave, get 5k shield, just there in case as an option. Basically, she doesn't rely on the field, which is a different condition to some of the other G-Guards. And then we've got Laser Guard as well for an easy 20k, but you do need a grade 2 on field. And that's pretty much it for my Dual Knight deck profile for premium format. Let me know how you find it. Let me know what kind of changes you end up making to it. And if you are looking for more deck profiles, I will be putting a few more maybe up on Clan Collection on Newsletter, but I do want to do some P-Clan Collection related stuff as well that I've not had time to sort out. Then just subscribe, and I'll see you guys there. Bye.